Ever wondered how ancient civilizations showed off their power? The Egyptians went big with pyramids like, "Look how high we can stack rocks big." The Romans built triumphal arches that screamed, "We conquered that, and that, and that." But ancient China? They had a flex that's way more practical. Picture this, a 3,000-year-old object that looks like it could hold soup or maybe grains. Nothing flashy at first glance, no gold leaf, no giant statues of gods. But it was a symbol of power in ancient China. Today, we're diving into the world of Chinese bronzes. Spoiler, it's way cooler than your morning coffee mug. The earliest Chinese bronzes popped up around 5,000 years ago, during the Mojiao culture. Where'd the idea come from? Some say it's a homegrown invention. Others swear it hopped over from late Neolithic Turkey and Iraq. Either way, by the Shang and Zhou dynasties, China's bronze game hit legendary status. How were they made? Let's watch a short video.
模是用陶土塑造的器物形象，而范则是在模上夯打出的陶土外壳。手工制模，再由模制范，这一套流程称为翻范法，是华夏先民掌握的黑科技。有了它们，先民们就可以将融化的铜液倒入其中，这叫范铸。待铜液凝固后，敲碎陶范外壳，华美的铜器就显露出来。
The piece mold casting Fanzu Fa was their go-to. Craftsmen carefully sculpted patterns and inscriptions, air-dried and fired them to create a master mold. Subsequently, they used this master mold to make clay molds, which were then fired to become pottery molds. After the alloy was melted, when the flame turned a pure blue color and the temperature reached approximately 1,200 degrees Celsius, it was carefully poured into the cavities of the pottery molds. After cooling and removing the molds and through cleaning and polishing, exquisite bronze wares were born. But they didn't stop there. By the spring and autumn period, they leveled up with lost wax casting Shila Fa. It is a next-level hack. First, the craftsmen carefully create a model of the casting using beeswax. Subsequently, they use other refractory materials to fill the core and form the outer mold. After heating and baking, the wax model will completely melt and drain away, leaving an empty shell casting model. Finally, pouring the molten liquid into this empty shell can cast the desired bronze ware. I'll divide them into 5 categories by function: food vessels, wine vessels, water vessels, musical instruments, and weapons, and introduce them in 2 episodes. First, food vessels. Food vessels were part of ritual vessels. They were containers used for steaming, boiling, and holding food during ancient sacrificial ceremonies and banquets. The most famous among food vessels is the ding. Classified by function, ding can be divided by size into huting, shangding, and shooting. Huting is the largest, usually used for boiling meat like the famous hu mu wu ding. Smaller than huting is shangding, also called zhangding. Once the meat was boiled in the huting, it needed to be fished out to cool. The ding used to hold this cooked meat is shangding. You might wonder, what if the meat gets cold? That's why shangding usually has a lid. Besides, food isn't tasty without seasonings. So there's a special ding for holding seasonings shooting, also known as peating accompanying ding. Classified by shape, ding generally falls into two types, round ding and square ding. Round ding has 3 legs. The most famous are the 3 treasures of the nation: Maogong ding, Deu ding, and Dake ding. Square ding has 4 legs. The meat boiling huting I mentioned earlier, the hu mu wu ding, is a square ding. The Zhou dynasty's system of arranged ding set rules for food vessels from emperors to scholars. Emperors used 9 ding and 8 gi. Feudal lords, 7 ding and 6 gi. Senior officials, 5 ding and 4 gi. And junior officials, 3 ding and 2 gi. What's the gi in 9 ding and 8 gi? It's a container for holding grains. Gi usually have handles, and unlike ding, they generally have no legs. Common gi come in 3 types: round gi, square gi, and gi that are round on top and square at the bottom. A representative round gi is the Zhongguan gi elephant pattern gi. A representative square gi is the Yachi Fang Gui. And the most famous of the round on top, square at bottom gi is the Li gi. The Li gi looks unremarkable in appearance, but it's known as one of the 9 national treasures. This is mainly due to its 33 inscriptions, which record the exact time of the Battle of Mui, a battle that decided the fate of the Shang and Zhou dynasties. The Book of Songs says, 300 chariots, 3,000 tiger warriors. While this might be an exaggeration, it reflects how fierce the Battle of Mui was. The battle lasted a whole day, ending with the fall of the Shang dynasty. The Li gi is the only archaeological artifact found to record this battle. Gi also has brothers like the Zhou, which looks like a round gi, the Fu, which resembles a square gi, and the Dun, which looks like a globe. The Dun evolved from a combination of ding and gi. All 3 recognize gi as their elder brother and are all food vessels. Now, we have containers for holding cooked food, but who does the cooking? That's the job of Li. It looks similar to a ding, but its belly and legs form hollow, bag-like shapes, like wearing wide leg pants. I'd call it the most stylish bronzeware. This design was to increase the heating area. With meat, vegetables, and staple foods covered, we can't forget side dishes. That's where du comes in. In ancient China, du referred to this container. Today, it's used for beans like soybeans or mung beans. Du also has a stepbrother called pu. It looks similar to du but has a thicker handle with woven hollow patterns. That's all for food vessels. Now let's talk about drinkware. Ancient people loved drinking wine. The Shang dynasty valued wine vessels, while the Zhou dynasty focused on food vessels. People started making wine very early. Bronze wine vessels are classified by function into wine storage vessels, drinking vessels, wine warming vessels, and wine mixing vessels. First, the Gua type of drinking vessel, similar to today's wine glass. Another drinking vessel is the Z. During the Shang and Zhou dynasties, it was round and somewhat plump. After the spring and autumn period, it gradually became slender, more like a gu. Moving on to wine storage vessels. The most famous is the Zun. It has a flared mouth, a long neck and foot, and a generally round or square belly. Classified by shape, Zun includes round Zun, square Zun, and animal-shaped Zun. A representative round Zun is the He Zun, whose inscriptions contain the earliest record of the phrase Zhai Zi Zhongguo, meaning dwelling in the Central Kingdom, the earliest reference to China. The most famous square Zun is the Xiang Fangzun for sheep square Zun. Animal-shaped Zun usually take realistic animal forms, such as Zizun ox Zun, Zhangzun elephant Zun, Niaozun bird Zun, and Zhaozun an owl Zun. The most well-known are the Jinhu Niaozun Jinhu Bird Zun and Fuhao Zhaozunzun Fuhao Owl Zun. Animal-shaped zun also has a stepbrother, the gong. The biggest difference between them is that the gong has a handle, while animal-shaped zun does not. Next, the lei, a good friend of the zun. The zun has a flared mouth, while the lei has a constricted mouth. One is like an extrovert, the other an introvert. Lei also come in square and round shapes. The most famous is the Min Fangli Min Square Lei. Majestic, solemn, and magnificent, it's the king of lei. Museums also have a wine storage vessel called the yu, specially used to hold a type of wine called jucking. Jucking is brewed from black millet and fragrant herbs. And yu was usually used in sacrifices to pour wine onto the ground. There's another container that can hold both wine and water, the hu. It comes in many designs but is generally long in shape, with round hu, square hu, and irregular shaped hu. The wine vessels I mentioned earlier, mainly pouring and storage vessels, have one obvious feature: no legs. A representative leggy wine vessel is the ju. Let's look at its structure. The spout is called the liu. The opposite end is the wei. The two small sticks on top are the zhu. The main body is the fu. The handle on the belly is the pan. And the bottom has 3 legs called zhu. The ju also has a stepbrother called the jiao, which has no spout or columns and has symmetrical tails. It was usually used by lower-ranking nobles. The ju also has a friend, the jia. It has no spout or tail, looking like an overweight ju. Jia come in round and square types. Round jia have 3 legs, square jia have 4. Some people can drink a lot without getting drunk, while others can't handle strong wine. That's where the he comes in, a wine mixing vessel. Wine mixed with water was called zuanjiu, similar to Italian aperitifs. Today's Chinese teapots evolved from he. In this episode, I've mainly talked about food vessels and wine vessels among bronzeware. Are there any you're particularly interested in? Feel free to type the names of the bronzeware you want to learn more about in the comments. I'll dive deeper into them after this series. In the next episode, I'll focus on water vessels, musical instruments, and weapons. Subscribe me to learn more about bronze and historical knowledge. See you next time!